So one of the challenges of the BRICS is that it's a consensus-based organization. And that is easier to do when you're 5 members. It gets more difficult when you're 10 members. And then when you get to 15, 20 members, getting consensus is extraordinarily difficult. We see that in the European Union. We see it at the United Nations and many of these multilateral groups. And then you have highlighted some of the geopolitical fault lines that exist within this membership. So the UAE-Iran relationship is fraught today. The Saudi-Iran relationship, although has improved, is still underneath it, has a lot of pent-up suspicion and mistrust. But none of that compares to the India-China relationship. How does a group where its 2 largest members hate each other, the way that India and China does, get anything done if it's a consensus-based organization?
And I think it's a very important question. And I usually say that BRICS is a group that agrees to disagree all the time. What do I mean by that? So
that sounds like my relationship with my wife. That's how we have a happy marriage, by the way. So we agree to disagree.
Maybe we can call it some kind of a harmonious conflict within the group.
That's right.
And I think within the discussions, this type of approach has usually played a very important role. And I think it brings a number of challenges, because when you have such deep level of rivalry between some of the members, of misunderstanding, or even the geographical distance of many of these members and the different importance that it brings to them, what you eventually have is a process that looks for minimum common denominators. And I think BRICS has been fairly good in doing that, in the sense of it does not expect that all of the members are going to align their views and positions of the world, but to a certain extent focus on those that are really the ones that are important for all of them. And I think the issue of currency, once again, is quite an important one, because irrespective of the tension that is very visible, as you say, between India and China, there is a common idea and common view of the fears and the risks that the global order brings, and how they can actually find new ways of engaging with countries within the global south and countries within the global east as well. So what we are expecting at this stage is that will be a certain degree of continuation of that. When I look into communiques from summits, for instance, I tend to split those discussions into, and what has been decided into, those that have been an effective negotiation between the members, and those are usually presented right in the beginning in a very heightened way in the communique, and in the recent years that have related to issues around the reform of international financial institutions, the issues of systems of payments, trade with local currencies, the expansion, the creation of institutions like the New Development Bank. But it often brings a lot of the softer issues for members, and these are issues that you don't really find a lot of disagreements between them. Whether it is BRICS endorsing last year the Brazilian candidacy for COP that is going to happen next year in Brazil, or discussions or highlighting the importance that South Africa often highlights on the role of women mediators in conflicts and so on. So those are not really issues that will take the sleep away from any of the policymakers. And when you have really great division between members, I think BRICS members tend to find 2 ways of resolving that. One is simply taking it off the agenda, and we've seen in a few cases that happening, or the other one, presenting those issues in a fairly diluted way. And I think the issue, for instance, of Security Council reform, where India, Brazil, and South Africa, the IBSA portion of BRICS, have been putting a lot of pressure in the last 15 years around that. And until very recently, these have been presented in fairly vague terms, very general, the language is very diluted to a point that it brings, to a certain extent, the views from the IBSA countries, that it's one, and the views from China and Russia, that it's often not the same. So to a certain degree, I expect that we'll continue with the new members. I think there is certainly a space in the future for BRICS itself becoming a forum for dialogue. At the end of the day, despite all of the challenges that India and China have, BRICS provide them a very regular space for interaction and conversations. And I think that can in itself present an opportunity for the group, especially where now we see the rivalry between Egypt and Ethiopia, Iran, Saudi Arabia, and India and China, as we mentioned as well.